I caught my younger sister sneaking into my house at 2 a.m., what she took nearly destroyed my marriage. I don't wake up easily. My wife says I could sleep through a thunderstorm if I wanted to. But that night, something pulled me out of sleep like a cold hand on the back of my neck. It was 2:07 a.m. I remember the time because I stared at the digital clock, glowing red in the dark like an open wound. At first, I thought I was dreaming. There were soft footsteps in the hallway, not heavy like mine, not light like my wife's. Just, cautious. Measured. Like someone who shouldn't be there. I sat up. Listened. Nothing. I leaned over, checked if Jess was beside me. She was. Curled up, breathing slow. Completely out. I got up, quietly. Didn't turn on the lights. I know every creaky floorboard in this place. I've lived here 6 years. Jess 3. We remodeled the whole thing together, sanded floors, painted walls. It's home. That's why what I saw next felt so wrong. I peeked out of our bedroom door. Down the hall, near the kitchen, I saw a shadow. Small frame, long hair, hoodie. Moving like she knew exactly where she was going. I stepped out and said, "Lo, who the hell is that?" The figure froze. Then she turned. And I swear to God, my brain refused to believe what I was seeing. It was my sister. Casey. Hair in a messy bun. Black leggings, oversized hoodie. No shoes. And holding, what looked like, my wife's laptop and a thick black folder I kept in the bottom drawer of my desk. I couldn't speak. My chest locked up. My body didn't know if it should yell, run, or just shut down completely. She whispered, "Shoo, please, don't wake Jess." That set me off. I snapped, "What the hell are you doing in my house?" She flinched. Like I'd hit her. But she didn't answer. I stormed forward. She backed up. Clutched the folder tighter. "Give me that. Right now." She hesitated. I stepped closer. She handed over the laptop but held onto the folder like it was her lifeline. "I need this," she said, voice shaking. I yanked it out of her hands. She looked like she wanted to cry. Or scream. Maybe both. "You broke into my house," I said, louder now. "What the hell, Casey? What were you thinking?" She stared at me. Then said something that chilled me to my core. "I was trying to protect you." And then she ran. Out the front door. Barefoot. Into the night. I didn't follow. I just stood there, holding Jess's laptop and that folder. The folder I hadn't touched in over a year. The one labeled, "Prenup, Confidential." I stood in the kitchen for maybe 10 minutes, trying to understand what the hell just happened. When I opened the folder, I didn't find the prenup. It was gone. Replaced with something else entirely. 20 pages of text messages, printed screenshots. Mostly between Jess and someone saved as D. My hands went cold. My vision tunneled. My knees buckled and I had to sit down right there on the kitchen floor. The first message was dated 8 months ago. "Don't worry, he'll never find out." Then a heart emoji. Then a picture. I knew that shirt. I bought it for her birthday. I kept reading. I didn't want to. But I couldn't stop. The name at the top of the messages shifted a few times. D turned into Derek. And my stomach dropped because I knew that name. Derek was my best man. He was also my cousin. I started shaking. Couldn't stop. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to punch through my ribs. I heard Jess stir in the bedroom, the mattress shifting. I shoved everything back into the folder and walked back down the hall like a ghost. Slipped into bed beside her. She rolled toward me in her sleep, murmured something, pressed her hand against my chest. I flinched. She didn't notice. I stared at the ceiling for the rest of the night, heart beating like a war drum, folder clenched in my hands under the covers. When the sun came up, I still hadn't decided if I was going to confront her. But I knew one thing. Whatever Casey found, she wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to save me. Jess made coffee like nothing was wrong. She wore one of my flannels, the one with the tear in the sleeve. Barefoot, humming. Hair still damp from her shower. She poured 2 mugs and handed me one like she always did, left hand first, soft smile, eyes not quite meeting mine. I stared at her hand. Noticed her ring was turned inward, diamond facing her palm. She only did that when she was nervous. "You okay?" she asked, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I nodded. My throat felt dry as sandpaper. I hadn't slept. I hadn't moved. She kept humming, scrolling her phone, acting like my entire world hadn't collapsed 5 hours ago. I said, "You hear anything last night?" She looked up. Like what? I kept my voice flat. Footsteps. Doors. Anything. She shrugged. No. Why? I stared at her for a second too long. She noticed. What's up with you? She asked. Light tone, but her grip on the mug tightened. I lied. Bad dream. She walked over, kissed my forehead. Well, you're safe now. I almost laughed. I almost screamed. She went back to the kitchen and started making eggs. Like everything was normal. Like she wasn't secretly calling a guy named Derek behind my back. A guy who had stood beside me on my wedding day with his hand on my shoulder, telling me how lucky I was. I waited until she left for work. The second the door shut, I dug the folder back out from under the bed and spread the papers out on the dining table. There were timestamps. Hotel bookings. Deleted calendar entries. One receipt from a steakhouse I'd never heard of, dated the night Jess told me she was visiting her mom for the weekend. I checked her texts. Nothing. Cleaned out. But the printouts didn't lie. Every line felt like a knife. Her words. Her emojis. Her goddamn photos. It was her, no doubt. Her face, her voice, her favorite lipstick shade. There was one voice memo. I don't know how Casey got it, but I recognized it the second I hit play. Don't say my name, she said. He checks my phone sometimes. I think he's getting suspicious. I slammed my fist into the table so hard I cracked the edge. I wanted to burn the whole house down. Instead, I called Casey. She picked up on the first ring. I'm sorry, she said, voice raw. I didn't know how else to get it to you. How long? I asked. She exhaled. Almost a year. I closed my eyes. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I tried to hint. But she got to Mom first. Told her I was acting jealous. Said I had a thing for Derek. That I made stuff up. My heart dropped. Mom knew. She chose Jess, Casey said. She said not to stir up drama. Said if you were happy, she didn't want to ruin it. I didn't even know what to say to that. My own mother covered for her. I hung up without another word. The silence that followed felt radioactive. Later that day, Jess came home early. Said her boss let her out for a mental health afternoon. She found me sitting on the couch, folder in my lap. I looked up. She saw it. Her face drained. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I said, sit. She didn't. Instead, she said quietly, where did you get that? I held it up. Want to try again? She took one step forward, then stopped. I can explain. I shook my head. No, you can't. She sat down slowly, her shoulders collapsing like a bridge giving out. I made a mistake, she whispered. It didn't mean anything. I thought it was over. I swear. I didn't say anything. She started crying. Not sobbing. Just silent tears, sliding down her cheeks. I asked, was it ever real? She blinked. Of course it was. I nodded slowly. You said he'd never find out. Her lips parted. She looked like she wanted to argue, but then she saw the printout in my hand. That message. That picture. I could see the fight leave her body. I didn't love him, she said. It was just, stupid. I stared at her for a long time. And then I asked the one question that had been chewing through my gut since 2 a.m. Did you marry me because you loved me, or because I was safe? She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I stood up, grabbed my keys, walked out. I didn't tell her where I was going. Hell, I didn't even know myself. All I knew was, I couldn't look at her without seeing his hands on her. And my sister was the only one who tried to stop it. I drove straight to Casey's. Didn't call, didn't text, just showed up at her apartment and knocked hard enough that her upstairs neighbor yelled something muffled through the floor. She opened the door, eyes wide, like she thought I came to blame her. Instead, I pulled her into a hug. She held on tight, like she'd been holding her breath since the night before. We sat on her couch, both of us shell-shocked and wordless for a while. Finally, I asked, why'd you even have that folder? She hesitated. Then said, because Jess gave it to me. That stopped me cold. She went on, back when you two got engaged, she asked me to drop it off at your lawyer's office. Said you didn't want to look like the bad guy pushing a prenup. That it would sting less if I handled it. My jaw clenched. So she manipulated you from day one. She nodded. I didn't realize until months later. When I found out about Derek, I started digging. The texts, the hotel receipts, none of that was easy to get. I risked a lot. I looked at her. You could have just told me. I did. You just didn't want to hear it. And she was right. A year ago, she had said something. Hinted that Jess was a little too friendly with my cousin. I brushed it off. Said she was overreacting. I'd told my own sister to back off. Now she was the only one standing beside me. I stayed at her place that night. Couldn't go home. Couldn't face Jess again. Not yet. The next morning, I got a text from my mom. Call me. We need to talk. I almost didn't, but curiosity got the better of me, and I needed to know how deep this really went. When I called, her tone was clipped, cold. She didn't ask how I was. Didn't mention the betrayal. Just said, I heard you're staying with Casey. Yeah, I said flatly. Where else would I go? You need to come home. Talk to Jess. Work this out like adults. I laughed. Couldn't help it. You mean forgive her? Like you already did? She made a mistake, Mom snapped. One that she regrets. And I won't let you throw away your marriage over a fling. A fling. That word hit me like a punch. I said, she lied to me. For almost a year. And you covered for her. I did what I thought was best for our family, she said, like that made it okay. For our family. I repeated. You mean hers? There was silence. Then, you've always been dramatic. I hung up. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I just sat there, in Casey's apartment, staring out the window like my whole life had been a hallucination and I was only now waking up. I didn't know who to trust anymore. Later that week, I got an email from Jess's lawyer. Subject line, request to discuss prenuptial agreement terms. The blood drained from my face. She was trying to beat me to the punch. I forwarded it to my own lawyer. An hour later, he called. Bad news, he said. The version she submitted, it's been altered. Yours was airtight. This one, it's watered down. Missing half the clauses. I clenched my jaw. So she planted a fake version. She may have. Or she destroyed the real one and tried to replace it. But Casey had it. That's what saved you. I didn't know what to say. She hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She tried to screw me legally, too. Take the house. The car. The savings. She had a plan. She'd probably had it for months. Maybe longer. I didn't sleep that night either. I started replaying everything. Our wedding. Our honeymoon. The way she'd look at her phone and smile to herself. The weekend trips. The girls' nights. The way she got cold after fights, like she was calculating something behind her eyes. I saw it now. All of it. Crystal clear. And I saw myself, too. So eager to believe the fantasy. So desperate to feel chosen, loved, settled. I ignored the cracks. I painted over them with words like stress, marriage, normal ups and downs. I didn't know if I hated her more, or myself. Casey came in while I was staring at the ceiling. She handed me a blanket, sat down on the edge of the couch. You know she's gonna twist this, right? She said. Make you out to be controlling. Or abusive. Or paranoid. I nodded. Let her try. I'll back you. That meant more than I could say. The next day, I sent Jess one message. I know everything. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't contact me again. She replied within minutes. Please. Just talk to me. One more time. In person. I didn't respond. But deep down, I knew I would. Because I needed to look her in the eye and hear why. Why me? Why us? Why burn it all down? We met at a coffee shop on the east side. Neutral ground. Public space. Too many people around for it to get ugly, but just enough noise that you couldn't hear the tension unless you were at our table. She wore the necklace I gave her on our second anniversary. I wore the watch my dad left me. The one she said made me look too serious. She got there first. Sat with her hands folded around a paper cup she hadn't touched. Her face looked tired. Makeup just enough to cover the cracks. I walked in. No hug. No hello. I sat down and stared across the table. She said, quietly, "Thank you for coming." I didn't answer. She tried again. "I know you hate me." I finally said, "I don't hate you." She looked up, surprised. I added, "But I don't recognize you either." She flinched like that hit harder than anything else I could have said. She started to speak, then stopped. Looked down. After a long silence, she said, "You were never supposed to find out." I let out a bitter laugh. "That's your opener?" She nodded. "Yeah. Because it's the truth." I stared at her. Waiting. Letting the weight of that sit between us. Then I asked, "Why him?" Her jaw worked. I don't know. It just happened. Bullshit. Her voice cracked. We got drunk. The first time, it was an accident. And the second time? I said. The third? The 15th? She shook her head, tears threatening. I didn't mean to fall into it. He listened. You were always working. You started pulling away. I slammed my hand on the table. Heads turned. I lowered my voice, shaking. Don't you dare blame this on me. I'm not, she whispered. I swear, I'm not. I felt invisible. You'd come home and you were already gone. Like I was living with a ghost. I leaned forward, voice sharp. You could have told me that. You could have said something. Instead, you took it to him. She closed her eyes. I know I messed up. No, I said. You didn't mess up. You made a choice. Over and over again. She didn't argue. I asked, what was the plan? Stay married, bleed me dry, and keep sleeping with him until I found out. Her eyes widened. It wasn't like that. Then why'd you tamper with the prenup? She froze. Busted. I leaned back. My lawyer has both copies. And timestamps. She dropped her head into her hands. I panicked, she said. When Casey took the folder, I thought, if you saw what was in there, it was over. I didn't want to lose everything. I laughed, dry and empty. You lost everything the minute you touched him. I loved you, she whispered. No, I said. You loved what I gave you. The house. The image. The steady paycheck. But you didn't love me. Not enough to protect me. Not enough to stay loyal. She said, I tried. I said, you failed. We sat there, silence thick between us. She finally asked, is there anything I can say that would make you forgive me? I looked her dead in the eyes. No, her face collapsed. I wanted to come clean, she said. So many times. But you were happy. And I kept telling myself if I just stopped, we could be okay. You didn't stop, I said. You just got better at hiding. Tears rolled down her face. She didn't even try to wipe them. I stood up. She reached out and touched my arm. I flinched. Pulled back. She whispered, I don't want to be the villain. I said, then you shouldn't have acted like one. And I walked out. Didn't look back. The air outside hit me like a slap. Cold, sharp, honest. It felt like the first real thing in days. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, shaking. Breathing like I'd run a marathon. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Casey, you okay? I typed back, getting there. Another buzz. This time from an unknown number. I almost didn't open it. But something made me. This is Derek. Can we talk? I stared at the screen. And for the first time in a week, I smiled. Because I finally knew what I was going to say to him. I met Derek behind the auto shop he managed. Back lot. Oil stains on the pavement. Cigarette butts everywhere. Perfect place for cowards. He was leaning against the wall like he had something to say that mattered. I walked right up. Didn't say a word. Just stared at him until he looked away. I figured you'd want to hit me, he said. I didn't answer. He pulled a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, took a long drag. Exhaled slow, like the smoke would shield him from what was coming. He said, I didn't plan it. We were drinking. She was pissed about something you said. We were both venting. I said, save the story. He tried again. I didn't mean for it to go on. But it did go on, I said. For almost a year. While you stood next to me at barbecues. Smiling. Asking if we were trying for a family. He flinched. Yeah, I said, voice cold. I remember every word you said to me while you were sneaking around with my wife. She said you were drifting. She said you didn't notice her anymore. She said the same thing about you, man. That's her thing. She says just enough to make you think it's your idea. He looked at me then. Really looked. You think she used me? I laughed. You still don't get it. He shifted, uncomfortable now. You think I didn't care? That I was just screwing around? You were my family, I said. My blood. And you didn't even hesitate. I didn't want to hurt you. I stepped closer. You didn't care if you hurt me. You just didn't want to get caught. He looked down. Said nothing. I said, so here's how this is going to go. He looked up, guarded. You're going to disappear from her life. Today. You're going to delete every message, every photo. You're going to block her number, her email, everything. He opened his mouth. I cut him off. You owe me that. And if you don't, I will make sure every single person in this family knows exactly who you are. Aunt Kelly. Uncle Dan. Your boss. Your landlord. Every one of them. I will bury you with the truth. He stared at me like I'd hit him with a brick. I finished, you walk away. For good. Or I drag you behind me into hell. He nodded, slowly. Then he said the one thing I didn't expect. I'm sorry, man. I stared at him, said nothing, and walked away. By the time I got back to Casey's place, Jess had already texted me 6 times. I can't eat, please just talk to me. I miss you. You're blowing everything up. Casey looked over my shoulder while I read them. She's spiraling, she said. I deleted them all. That night, Mom called again. This time, I answered. She opened with, your cousin's been calling me, saying you threatened him. I didn't threaten him, I said. I gave him a choice. Mom sighed like I was the one who broke something. You're making this worse than it has to be. No, I'm finally seeing it clearly. She asked, do you really want to throw away your marriage? Over one mistake. I nearly dropped the phone. One mistake. She said, Jess is human. So are you. You've made mistakes too. Not like that. You don't walk away from a life because of one betrayal. I laughed. No. You walk away when it's a pattern. When it's a lie that lasted a year and involved your own cousin. There was silence on her end. Then she said, I think you're being influenced. By who? Casey? Yes, she snapped. She's always been jealous of Jess. She's been trying to sabotage this since the beginning. I shook my head, stunned. She's the only one who protected me, I said. Everyone else told me to smile through it. To stay quiet. To keep pretending. Mom said, that's what family does. No, I said. That's what cowards do. And I hung up. A week later, the divorce papers were filed. Jess contested them. Dragged her feet. Played the victim to whoever would listen. I didn't care. Because Casey was right. She was going to twist it. She told our friends I was emotionally distant. That I had been withholding, cold, hard to love. She cried in public. Put on the sad wife costume. She made it sound like I pushed her into his arms. And some people believed her. But others didn't. Because Casey had the receipts. And when it got ugly, she showed them. The truth. The messages. The pictures. The voice memos. And suddenly, Jess didn't look like a heartbroken wife anymore. She looked like what she really was. A liar. A manipulator. A person who would rather torch someone else's life than admit her own mistakes. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. She got nothing. Not the house. Not the car. Not the savings. Because she tried to play smart and ended up showing her hand. She left town a week after the final hearing. I haven't seen her since. As for Derek, he vanished too. No one's heard from him in months. And I'm fine with that. Because in the end, I didn't just lose a wife. I lost a version of myself that was blind to the truth. And I gained something way more valuable. Clarity. A clean slate. And a sister I will never doubt again.